Hello. Now, good evening again. Hello, everyone. May I ask you in the back, do you hear me well? Yes? Is it all right? Perfect. Wonderful. Now, I would like to thank you, everyone. My name is Robin. I'm founder of Expats Finance. We are hosting this seminar for you, which is called From Expat to Homeowner, Mastering Czech Real Estate. We're going to be together for the next about 2 hours, if you have time, and feel free, in the middle of this seminar, we're going to have a little pause, and feel free to refresh yourself at the bar. Now, you can see that we're already at the start. The first part will be delivered by me. It will be focused a bit more on financing part, processing. There will be a little bit of numbers, some graphs, so please brace yourselves. Then there will be time for some questions. At the same time, you can take a little pause, you can go to refresh yourself, and after me will be my colleague Daniel, who will deliver the second part, with a pretty similar scheme for about 45 minutes, followed by question time, and in the end, if you still have time and energy, we can stay here longer, as long as you want. We can discuss any questions on your mind. So, without further ado, let me introduce myself. My name is Robin. I'm founder of Expats Finance. I'm mortgage advisor. I'll be responsible for the finance part. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dan Kotula, who is owner of RK Kotula, Kotula Reality, and he will be delivering information about real estate. So in these two parts, in the first part, feel free to ask me anything, interrupt me, raise your hand, and I'll do my best to answer. The second part will be dedicated to the real estate. I would like to start with a question and a little bit of interaction I would appreciate. Who is planning to be here for more than 5 years? Raise your hand. Thank you very much, because buying a real estate isn't something for a short run. If you're here, I would expect that you're interested maybe to staying longer in the Czech Republic. When you buy a real estate, you can consider investing in terms of maybe flipping, buying and reselling, but this is not seminar for today. Today we're going to talk about how you can buy a property and become a homeowner specifically for own living. And another question would be, what do you, let's say, appreciate? What do you like the most about Czech Republic? Now we've run a little poll, and the answer is on the next slide. But can somebody tell me what is the thing you like the most about Czech Republic? And don't worry, we don't report it to the foreign police. It will stay here. So whatever you like, can somebody just say something what you like? Tranquility. Pardon me? Tranquility. Wow, this is a great thing. Very much. I love tranquility as well.
Connections, train, metro.
Wonderful. Public transportation, I hear. Amazing. Something else? Okay. Now this, maybe I would give the answer. The most people who appreciate living in the Czech Republic, this poll is run by expats. We had about 220 respondents, and the biggest, let's say, the most positive feedback we got about standard of living. Now, what can we understand about this? We can say, depending on how, let's say, one person earns, the standard of living, how nice it is living in the country. Now as well, public transports, that's what I heard, definitely. I think Prague is great with this regard. Work opportunities, friendly, family friendly, safety, and my personal liking, architecture. Today, I separated my financial part into two subparts. Theory, where you can see what we're going to talk about, and then about how we'll move to practice. So in the first part, more listening. In the second part, you can already think about how it reflects to you. Because the goal of today is so that you know how you can effectively buy real estate. There's going to be a lot of information. You can write information down, but we will also follow up with the presentation to your email. So you don't necessarily have to write or take pictures. So one of the parts is to understand the real estate market. I don't know how long you're in the Czech Republic. If you just moved here a couple of months ago, or if you're an expat who is here for 10 years, 20 years, you might know what the real estate market and the financial market did in the last year. It completely turned the other side. I'm going to talk about that. Same, I will explain what are the main requirements for foreigners to get mortgage. Because we focus purely on expats in our company, we will tell you what you need to fulfill to satisfy the bank and get the best mortgage possible. Buying a real estate, I would say, comes in a couple of steps. And it is good to know what you should, in which order they would go. In front of you, there is a buyer's guide. This is a PDF or it's a checklist which we developed to help you with the process. Feel free to take it with you. I'll be referring to it in multiple occasions. And similarly, there are links. You can see there are some QR codes, which you will find probably very helpful because some of the answers I cannot cover today, but more information is on the QR codes you can see on the separate paper. And lastly, find about property types. Certain types of property comes with different process, different financing, so I'll tackle this a little bit. Can we move on? Wonderful. Now, we are in our company, Expats Finance, we are a group of 3 mortgage advisors. Myself, my colleague, my sister, we are all mortgage advisors, and also with my friend Hannah, we're covering the legal side. I know it's a little bit weird, 4 faces looking at you, so I'll go away from this slide. But our results, I would like to say that we are a company specialized purely on expats. I wouldn't say we don't work with Czechs. The only 2% of Czechs are my personal friends, but this is how we maintain our niche. We work only with foreigners, and we provide only mortgage advisory. I mean, we can also follow up with other investment advices or insurance advices, but we consider ourselves specialists in the field of financing, and again, this is the subject of today. We did more than 300 purchases over the last 10 years. This is also my history. I a little bit skipped my introduction because I'm mortgage advisor for the last 10 years. Before I worked 4 years in a banks, and before I was in a high school working in McDonald's, which I'm not really ashamed for. I think this was a great lesson, but now I'm coming in front of you with 10 years of experience because I want to deliver it to you. Also, we closed more than 1.4 billion mortgages and Czech crowns worth of mortgages, and the 100% success rate. What I mean with this is when we start working with client and we tell him or her the process is going to be fine, you can sign the reservation contract, we will sign the mortgage application, it never ever happened that the client didn't complete the process. They never lost the reservation deposit, so I aim to maintain this score, hopefully for a very long time, maybe forever. Going into the market update. I don't know how far you've been following the news or the current real estate and financing market, but over the last year, there has been a big change from sellers to buyers market. Now, maybe some of you are looking into real estate for more than a year. Is there somebody who is looking for more than a year into a property purchase? So would you confirm the market changed, the behavior on the market? Yes? Because we'll go through it, and there are reasons, valid reasons why it changed, but this is the biggest change I've seen in the 10 years. In the last 10 years, it was quite hard to be a buyer, and the situation was working a little bit in more favor for the sellers. Finally, it's time for payback. Now, buyers have much more power in terms of negotiations, and this is what Daniel will maybe talk about, how to leverage that in your favor. We are experiencing, on the other hand, record high interest rates. If we look 20 years into the history, we are having the highest rates in the Czech Republic for the last 20 years. One can say it's very bad, it's not nice, but if you look to other countries, you will realize that the rates which we're experiencing is not that extraordinary. We have a lot of clients coming, for example, from India, from Turkey, and the interest rates there are 10% plus, so it's very relative what we're comparing it to. Property prices starts to go down. Now, again, Daniel will bring a bit more insight because this is relevant to many other factors, but it is true. Statistics confirm that the real estate market has been going down for the last probably a year, and you can see different trends, different types of properties, different areas. What I mean by deregulation by Czech National Bank, about a year ago, Czech National Bank, with regards to the high inflation, the war in Ukraine and other negative factors, they brought a lot of regulations. I will speak about those later, but recently, a month ago, Czech National Bank removed one of those regulations to ease on the market and maybe help buyers to maybe buy more real estate or to borrow more money. So this is recent news, about 2 months ago, deregulation by Czech National Bank, meaning people can borrow a little bit more money. What I mean by a little bit, you will see in the next slides. And introducing early refinancing fee. Again, covering a little bit later. For now, refinancing your current loan was pretty much free of charge. Anytime you could break the fixation, go to another bank, you wouldn't have any penalty. But this is about to an end, starting from next year. Interest rates. Somebody who got a mortgage recently in the last couple of months? Is there someone? I took a mortgage in January or February, and my rate was 6.29. It wasn't the best. I have my reasons why I went for it, but these are the historical rates going from 2003 in the Czech Republic. Now these are the average. You can see the lowest was in 2016, 2021, and now we're experiencing very high increase. But for the good news is, for the last year, pretty much remained the same. With this graph, I wanted to show that before COVID, Czech National Bank already realized there is something happening, and they slowly started to increase the rates. But then COVID happened, and they had to stimulate the economy with putting the interbanking rates down, and therefore that caused another wave of cheap mortgages and another purchases and property prices skyrocketing. And then a year ago, war in Ukraine, high inflation, other factors which brought the rates very, very high. We can see that already we had rates around 5 to 6% in 2008 to 2010, which lasted about 2 years. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see the same trend here for another 2 years, but it's just some information you can work with. With this volume, for which I'm very grateful for David, thank you David for providing, this is a graph of volume of mortgages provided. You can see that in the year 2021, it was a record year for Czech banks in terms of volumes. Now tackling 50 billion mortgages per month, which was an incredible amount. And then in the lowest peak, which was, I think about October, November last year, it was about 7 million. So at some point, the banks experienced more than 80% year-to-year decrease. On the mortgage market, that was something incredible. The banks had pretty much nothing to do. They were calling brokers, do you have some business? This is something which I didn't experience for a long time. And now slowly, the mortgage market is picking up. The result, or the cause of this, is obviously the high interest rates. You see it correlates here with the peak. Also the drop in the volume. If you're wondering what are the rates right now, now the best mortgage you can get today is 5.39. This is for fixation 5 years. It is the same for 80 and to 90% financing. And for a quick math, if you borrow 1 million, you're going to repay back 5,600 per month over 30 years. Can anybody guess which bank is providing 5.39? Wild guess? Okay, I'll answer myself. It's UniCredit. Now, UniCredit is a bank which usually wasn't the cheapest, but now for whatever strategical decision, they prepared extra offers for clients, making them number one. So these days, most of our clients we finance with UniCredit. If you're curious what other banks are good for rates, I would say these days it's Komerční banka, Česká spořitelna. These are probably the banks which I finance these days clients the most. Wasn't it too boring, this part? A little bit, right? No? You're still with me. Now, it will be a little bit more interesting after this part, at least from my perspective. What I call interesting in my financial world can be very boring for you guys. Sorry, but you decided voluntarily to spend the evening with me, so I'll keep on boring you for another 30 minutes. Going to Czech rules. Because coming from another country can come with different expectations. And what I mean by different expectations, some things which might work in other countries don't work in Czech Republic. Very often, I get clients surprised that if you're married, and even though income just of one person is enough for the mortgage, you are still due to buy it together with your wife, with your husband. It doesn't matter who is bearing the income. As long as you're married, under Czech legislation, it is expected that you are going to acquire the asset together. There are ways around it. Of course, if you don't prefer it, you can sign a notarial deed in front of a notary, and that will separate the assets. So if you really don't want to have this for whatever reason, it can be economical, it can be, you cannot hide the property from your spouse, but there are ways how to make the purchase on your own. What I mean by early repayments, in the law it is confirmed, or in the law is written that you can make early repayments of 25% of the original loan amount per year for free. Meaning, if you borrow 10 million, every year you can repay back for free without any penalties 2.5 million. The bank cannot charge you anything. The payment goes directly to the capital. And what happens, you lower your monthly repayments, or you shorten your duration, depending on the bank setup. But this is a lot of people don't know, 25% per year guaranteed. So if you win a lottery, you can close the mortgage in 4 years with no extra costs. Nevertheless, the duration, nevertheless, the fixation of the interest rate. Another thing is that income is key. I get sometimes clients surprised, maybe some clients who are wealthy, somebody who has millions on their bank accounts, millions on stocks, maybe people with a lot of real estate, but they don't necessarily have any source of income. And when they maybe approach asking for, so can I just get a couple of million for whatever reason, if you don't prove to the bank a stable source of income they will be happy with, ideally from Czech Republic, it wouldn't work. Now you cannot do the mortgage just based on declarations. It used to be possible, but with regards to regulations on the market, it's not no more an option. So income is key. You must show the bank sufficient income. When it comes to financing, there is a term called LTV, loan to value, which is either up to 80 or 90%. It is not possible anymore to acquire 100% financing from the bank. It used to be possible, but right now you have to be with the age maximum 35 to get 90% from the bank. There are ways around it. I will explain in the next slides. Cooperative flats. The smiley here is because it's a bit complicated. It's one of the, I believe it's one of the QR codes you have there. If you want to learn more about buying a cooperative flat or what are the tricks about it, why it's maybe not, why it's so complicated, have a look or refer to our website. We have a blog post dedicated to it. From all the more than 300 purchases we did, can you guess how many were cooperative flats? 0, yes. Sometimes it's even in the cooperative union founding documents that expats cannot acquire properties. It is only for Czechs. Is it legal? I don't. Yes, probably. If otherwise, it wouldn't be there. But at some point, we made the cooperative union to change these documents, or our client could buy it, but then he changed his mind. Developments with a thumbs up means you can finance developments, even though if they're in the construction. I mean, you just sign a piece of paper and the developer promises the building will be ready in 2 years. Can you get the financing already now and not to worry later? Yes, you can. This is completely normal and standard. However, these days, a lot of people postpone this decision because there is expectations the rates might be lower. So why would you sign a mortgage now? You can wait 1 more year, see how the rates goes. Is it a good decision? It has its pros and cons. Fixed rates. In Czech Republic, generally, rates are fixed for a certain period of time. Usually, you take a mortgage for 30 years, and the fixation you select for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, up to you. Depending on that, you will get different interest rates. I'll break this down a little bit more in other slides. And the most interesting, at least for our business, is that mortgage advisor is free for clients. Because the whole setup in the Czech Republic, and it has always been like that mortgage advisors brings, if I'm not mistaken, more than half to 2/3 of the whole mortgage business to the banks, meaning we do a big portion for the bankers. We complete the file, we discuss everything with clients, so we are your points of contacts. I like to say speaking to mortgage advisor is like speaking to all the banks at once, because this is how we deliver. We provide you with summary, you decide which bank you want to go with. If the deal is closed, we get paid by the bank. No reflections to you as a client, and we get paid from separate budgets from the bank. I would consider it a win-win situation. Now, fixation of interest rates. If you would read those statements, is there any statement you would not agree with? If you can read it. If not, I will read it for you. Fixations used to be more binding, is one statement. Another one is 1 year fixation is much more expensive than 5 years fixation. Another one, you can refinance anytime. Bank can charge you only admin fees for breaking the fixation prematurely. Here, this is a little bit tricky. I will explain this one. Now, new law will bring 2% early refinancing penalty. This is the biggest change which came about a year ago, because back then, this used to be, or you can refinance anytime. That was the standard on the market. Everybody knew that. So when you selected 10 years fixation, You could easily wait 2-3 years, then the rates go down, you would approach your bank and you say, dear bank, why am I with you with rate of 3%? The other banks, they offer rates of 2%. I want to go to that bank. And your bank did allow that with almost no costs. It might sound surprising, but this is exactly what happened. But as you can imagine, banks didn't really like it very much. And right now they're working on update of the law. It's in the parliament, it is being discussed. But long story short, from beginning of next year, it is expected that the early refinancing, you can still do it because this is still valid. You can refinance anytime, but with a cost. And the cost will be 2% starting from next year. Now, selecting fixation becomes much more difficult topic than it used to be. You have to think where the rates might be in 3-5 years. And the trick is, no one knows. The rates can be still the same. They can go higher, hopefully not, they can go lower. If they go lower, by how much? When? So all of these questions, it's a little bit too difficult to explain. At this point, I usually run some simulations. Long story short, these days, most clients consider between 3 and 5 years fixations. Rates are expected to get lower in the following years. Well, hopefully, if the economy, well, how do we define that? But my expectation is in the next 2-3 years, we should see maybe, and this is definitely a wild guess, 1% lower, maybe 2% lower. I don't think we will see rates of 2% anytime soon in the next 5 years. Personally, I believe it is quite unhealthy for the economy. If you have super cheap money like this, people start buying real estate, and then happens exactly what happened. Property prices goes through the roof and starts a spiral of inflation. Do you, anyone, have any question about everything I've been talking so far, or about fixation? A typical follow-up might be, do you have a floating rates? Is there a rate which is copying the current market? We do, but the margin from the banks is so high that nobody usually takes it. They're let's say, pegged, or they're linked to a 2-week repo rate or to Pribor, and the banks take at least 1-2% on top of it. It's a complicated subject, long story short. Fixation, 3 to 5 years is the most common one. You can take even a 1-year fixation, but the rate is going to be the cheapest, I think, is Česká spořitelna 6.69 is the fixation for 1 year, if you would consider. This very easy graph is a summary of the process. Now, you can see it, it's in the guide you have. It's one of the pages. You would see all the steps involved in buying a real estate. Starting from looking for a property, finding the property, you can see a little to-dos, what you need to do, and this is to help you understand how many steps there are for you to eventually go through. I've put it to the checklist, so you can see it in the guide. See it for yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, because my job is to help you to purchase a real estate, mainly from the financing and processing part. Was it all right? Not too boring? A little bit. I know. Practical part. I promise this will be much more interesting, because we're going to have some real case scenarios. What do you need as an expat to show to the bank to actually get mortgage? It's basically these 3 things. You need to have down payment, because as I said, you cannot get any more 100% financing. You need to get stable income. I already said the income is key. We cannot base it just on declaration. And you need to have some kind of profile, which for expats, the banks are mostly interested on citizenship and residency. We will be speaking about EU, non-EU in the next slide. So these 3 things, if you fulfill, you can quite easily get a financing. When it comes to down payment, imagine that you buy a property. I'll just use an example of 10 million because it's nice and round number. And if you're targeting 90% financing, the bank would eventually lend you up to 9 million if your income is sufficient. If you are in the age of maximum 35, if you were a couple, a married couple, one of you is 35, one is 37, you can still get up to 90% financing, because if you're married, it follows the age of the younger applicant. If you're not married, it usually doesn't. So you either have to get married or think about getting 20% financing. You can also ask the bank for exceptions. Now, I had this case 2 weeks ago. I had a couple, they were both 39, and they needed 90% financing. So we asked, can we get that? Well, by the books or by the regulations, no. But banks can provide up to 5% of the previous quarter volume towards exceptions on the next quarter. What it means, there's a little amount of exceptions, and what I did with this inquiry, I took the numbers, I did a summary of the case, sent it to all the banks, and found out that there are 2 banks who still have budgets for the exceptions. So even though you don't have necessarily the age requirement fulfilled, don't hesitate to ask, because there's nothing wrong with asking, you have nothing to lose, and it can equally very well work. These days, I think still Česká spořitelna have budgets for 90%. This is information from last week. 20% will bring you usually better rates. Not always, but sometimes banks provide you better offers if you bring more down payment, but it stops at 20%. If you would think, aha, so if I bring 50% down payment, do I get even better rates? No. It's either 80 or 90% financing. One bank has 70% threshold, that's hypoteční banka or ČSOB. But besides of that, it's either 80 or 90. If you borrow just 10%, doesn't matter. The bank is still going to give you the same rate as it is 80% financing. What I mean by a variety of banks, it means you can typically look to more banks to finance your purchase. Or a property. Now this is interesting if you already purchased the real estate. Sometimes we call it as releasing equity. It might mean that you bought a property, let's say at 5 million 5 years ago. Today, it might be worth, let's say, 8 million. So you've built up equity of 3 million. Now you can use this to offset the down payment. So in this scenario, you don't have to put down any money if you go to the same bank. This is interesting because very often people think of, oh, I cannot buy this real estate because it costs me 15 million. Where I would like to live with my family. But people tend to forget that properties change ownerships about every 10 years. So very often you don't need to be acquiring the final property where you imagine yourself to living until the rest of your life. You can acquire something maybe smaller. It could be for investment, hopefully for your own living. And then eventually, assuming the property would appreciate, you would just use it as a vehicle to make another purchase with no down payment. Now, of course, it means the repayments will be higher. The requirement on income will be also higher. But it's a way how you can work effectively with the value of the property. Moving on to the next part, just checking my time. Income is key. Now, if you're an employee, the banks, how do the banks work with how much they take your income? They would just look into your last 12 months bank statements and they look into your net income. So if you get bonuses, you can count that in. If you receive 13th salary, again, banks would work with most likely 12 months average backwards. This is how very simplified banks work with your income. If you changed your employer, it's a different story. If you changed your employer 6 months ago, they would just take the average from the new employer, not from the previous one. They would do the average though if you got if you got promotion. So we have to, for example, if you got a very high promotion, we have to sometimes explain it to the bank, show them the confirmation, say you went very higher, therefore we can play a little bit more with the numbers. If you change your job, you need to be at least 3 months in the new job, and after that the banks will work just with the 3 months average. This is typically an answer for people, okay, so if I move to another company, after how long I can apply for mortgage? The answer is after 3 months. In some banks it's 6 months, but usually 3. If you're self-employed or business owner, then the fun begins. Because for self-employed people, you typically don't have the same income every month. If you do, good for you, but usually self-employed people, you file tax returns. With the new regime in the Czech tax law, you don't even have to file tax returns. You can pay something called paušální daň, fixed payment for taxes, and then it's even more complicated for the bank to calculate the income. Long story short, if you're self-employed, then the bank will work roughly with about half of what you're invoicing. So if you're invoicing 100,000 per month, for the sake of calculations, think of about 50,000. There's going to be difference whether you are IT specialist or whether you are administrative worker. Because the banks understand, or a painter or a builder, because the banks understand that for the sake of taxes, very often the numbers are I wouldn't say adjusted, but oversimplified. There is something called 60-40 rule. I don't know if you heard of it. It means if you're self-employed, you can easily write off 60% as expenses in most works. And that's why banks are a little bit afraid, because they don't see clearly through your tax return, and that's why they undervalue your income if you're self-employed. If you're a business owner, it's even more complicated. That I wouldn't be able to explain now. Getting myself a mortgage was a bit hard. I couldn't. That's basically the reason why I got so high interest rate. I couldn't go to most of the banks because they would reject me because of such a complicated structure of income I had. So I had to go to 2 banks only, either Raiffeisen Bank or Česká spořitelna. No other bank wanted to finance me, and I just couldn't take I couldn't target the cheapest banks. Easy as that. Excuse me. Now, does anybody understand this table? I'll start with a question. If you are Colombian citizen with permanent residency asking for 80% financing, how many banks you can target? Yes, perfect. So it does work. This table summarizes how many banks you can approach depending on your residency. One of the biggest myths I see amongst expats, or misunderstandings, is if I don't have a permanent residency, I cannot get a mortgage. Not true. If I don't have permanent residency, I cannot get 90% financing. Again, not true. But I'm not from EU. Doesn't matter. Unless, well, here we have to specify certain countries, because what I said is true for majority of countries. It is true that the banks do have some, I wouldn't call it blacklisted countries, but countries with certain regulations. Now, with the eyes of the current sanctions, it can be Russia, it can be Belarus, but I usually explain it, and it's a completely different reason, but I explain it on the case of, I don't know, Afghanistan, Iran. These countries with international sanctions, they do have different regulations, even from the bank's point of view. So unless we're speaking of citizens from these countries, this is true. So very often we have Indian clients. Now, if you're an Indian client who is looking for, or any other non-EU client, without permanent residency, and you still want 90%, there is at least one bank who should be able to finance you. That bank, by the way, is ČSOB, or Hypoteční banka. They're the most expats-friendly bank, but they're not the cheapest. Borrowing limit. So you passed the first test with complicated table. Yes? Thank you for the question. For those who didn't hear, the question is, if we have a combination, I would say, of expats, one with one profile, one with second profile, where are we? The answer is, usually it depends on who is bearer of the income. If the person with so-called better profile, meaning the one who can afford to go to more banks, their income is sufficient for the whole transaction, then we don't necessarily have to care about the profile of the second person. If we need to work with both of these people's profile, it's a combination of these numbers. So this is what I usually explain. And every time we deal with clients, our feedback is a summary of the options. So if I understand your inquiry, I will reply back with the list of your options and explaining why yes, why no, and what would be my recommendations. Welcome. Borrowing limits. I promise this is the most complicated table you will see. This has to do with what are the regulating factors, let's say, by the Czech National Bank. There used to be something called DSTI, Debt Service to Income, but from July it was cancelled. There was a DTI, Debt to Income, and LTV. LTV you already know, Loan to Value. There is up to age of 35, you can borrow 90%, age 36 and above 80%, but we know there are exceptions. Then DSTI used to be 50%. It means if your income is 100,000 net per month, you can repay debts up to 50% of your net income. So you can have mortgage repayments or any other repayments up to 50% of your net income. But now it has been cancelled. Does it mean that you can borrow unlimited amount of money? No, because still the second regulator is in place. And also the fact that it was cancelled by the Czech National Bank doesn't mean the banks don't follow it. Banks still do follow it. They take it internally. It just means from the Czech National Bank they can borrow more if they want, but they don't have to. So again, type of summary which I'm giving to clients is, if you tell me who you are, what is your inquiry, maybe sometimes how much you can borrow varies bank by bank. And you will see that in about 3 slides. The debt to income means if you take a income of 100,000 per month netto, multiply by 12, we have 1.2 million. And that means that you can borrow 9.5 times the annual net income on sum of all your debts. Now, if somebody has a calculator, maybe Jose, 1.2 million multiplied by 9.5. Anyone else? 11 million. Okay, so that person could borrow 11 million. If you're... Yes, please.
Question, why 35? And does it have a relation with the comparison age?
Thank you for the question. Why the age of 35? This regulation has been set by the Czech National Bank. Why this particular age? I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know why it isn't 37, why is it 32? It's a good question. I never thought about it. I never challenged it. It has to do with, maybe somebody in the audience might know, but I personally don't know. I would be very happy to find this and send it to you, this information. Not that it changes anything. It's good to know, but we cannot necessarily do anything about that. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. Now I'll go to the real life example. This example will go backwards to everything we've talked about, and we have a non-EU married couple. If you're wondering why I keep on bringing non-EU, maybe you would be curious that the most common nationality of our clients are Indians these days. The amount of Indian citizens in the Czech Republic more than doubled in the last 5 years. I see a very big trend, and that's why I selected this profile. So non-EU married couple, 35 and 37, long-term residency, the wife is on maternity with a child. The income is 110,000 per month netto, working full-time in MSD. Anyone know MSD? Yeah, MSD, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. We usually have clients from there, Novartis, DHL. So this is the typical inquiry. I get basic data, and clients have 1 million down payment they're willing to invest, but they wish not to repay more than 30,000 per month. This is the inquiry I get. What do I do with this? Or, I'm very sorry, I'm stepping away a little bit from the human factor. I might sound like a robot. My point here is I want to deliver you the data. I want to give you the numbers and how much it means for you in real life. So excuse me if I sound a little bit off the topic. I'm very personal in real life just now. Okay, maximum mortgage, how much you can borrow. You have income 110,000. I have these magical calculators, and they tell me how much you can actually borrow. And you see that the number varies quite big from the lowest amount, 8.7 million, to 12.5 million. Sometimes the inquiry is, I want to borrow as much as possible. Well, in that bank, the answer is UniCredit Bank, 12.5 million. So with income 110,000, we are actually limited by the DTI 9.5. If you remember, you still have to follow these regulators, and this is what will stop the client at the maximum amount of borrowing. So you can work it with you. You can, if you want to know how much you can borrow, you can take your net income, multiply it by 12, include bonuses, multiply by 9.5, because this is exactly what happened here, and this is the amount of how much you can borrow right now in UniCredit. Now, if you want to get financing with UniCredit, feel free to approach them, but I would also appreciate if I can help you with that, because you get a free help, I get paid by the bank. All right, what would be my suggestion then for the client? Can we go to UniCredit? No. Why? Why we cannot go to UniCredit? I'm sorry? Uh, could be, yes, but I didn't explain. Sorry, UniCredit at this point is the cheapest bank, 539 on the rate. So normally I would say, why isn't here UniCredit? The reason is they have different requirement. Anyone know which one? Usually, UniCredit, unfortunately, is the least expat-friendly bank. They require permanent residency, with pretty much no exceptions. So that, unfortunately, is a showstopper for most clients, and that's why I didn't suggest UniCredit to these clients, because simply we cannot pass through their methodology. Therefore, what is the other cheapest bank? Right now on the market, the best offer I can get for these clients is 559 with Česká spořitelna. So they have 1 million to invest. It's going to be 80% loan to value. You buy for 5 million, mortgages 4 million, monthly repayments in this amount. This is summary number 1 or scenario number 1. Another scenario will be working with the maximum repayments. So clients said they want to repay around 30,000. And I try to fit as close to the number as possible. I'm still working with 1 million down payment, but that allows me to borrow a bit more money. Yes, they will repay much more. They will repay about 7,000 more here, and the rate is pretty much still the same, 559 or 584. If you're wondering why 584 and why not 559, if here was 559, it is because we got the 3% higher. If you get above 80%, it doesn't matter if it is 1%, 3%, usually the bank adds a little bit on top of it. So then the clients have to select, do you go to KB or Česká spořitelna? You can also see that we still require a little bit of exceptions here. In KB, they want officially permanent residency. But KB, unlike UniCredit, is very friendly towards exception. Now, again, this is why you consult with mortgage advisors. We would tell you, yeah, don't even bother going to UniCredit because it wouldn't work. Let me help you going to KB because I will make sure that the exception is granted. In Česká spořitelna, there's this threshold of 5 million. And if the client wants to go, I'll say, a little bit more wild, borrowing as much as possible, you still need to bring at least 10%, which is 1 million down payment, but the repayments are going to be 54,000 per month. Now, if it is fine for you as a family, you can sustain it, why not? But the client said maximum 30,000. I just thought I will show it here to you so that you know that there are other options. You can switch to 90% financing, but the rate with ČSOB is going to be more around 6%. I said ČSOB, they are the most expats-friendly bank, but not the cheapest. Yes?
Would that work because the expats age is 35 and 37?
Uh-huh.
So it would still work. They still able to get a 90% loan to value and not 80%.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The question was whether they're really able to get 90% financing if they're 35 and 37. Yes, they are, because they're married. If you're married, you apply the age of the young one. So that's why. Great question, by the way. All right. I should speed up a little bit because I'm going a little bit over the time. Danielle, is it all right? Thank you. I will go with the steps to purchase. The steps to purchase are in your guidebook. You can, feel free, as I said, take it with you. I will repeat a little bit what is written in there, but with a little bit of commentary. First thing, you should know what you want. I know it sounds obvious, but very often clients, no, it's not true, not very often. Sometimes clients come to me saying, yeah, maybe we want a flat, maybe we want a family house, but maybe it will be in Prague, maybe in Kladno, maybe in Kolín. So the first things is understand what you want. Do you want to live in the city? Do you want to commute? Are you okay with a smaller city with less amenities? How good is your Czech? What about living in a village? It can be a bit troublesome. So you should know what is it that you want. I've put to the guide a couple of questions which you can answer yourself, and that will help you understand maybe what are your preferences. Idea about the price? Very easily. You just go to sreality.cz, look at a couple of properties, then have a basic understanding of what prices to expect. Not to expect to buy 3+1 in Vinohrady under 5 million, for example. Purpose of investment, whether it's for own living or for investment or buy to let, yes. And renovation, how happy you are with renovations. I did a renovation of my property, a full renovation, 110 square meters, and it was a nightmare. And I'm Czech. And I dealt directly with the builders, and I'm just bracing you. Renovation is fine, because you are going to get a nice increase in value. You can renovate it according to your standards. You have control of the materials, but it costs a little bit of a gray hair. So brace yourself. It's good. It's worth it. But my point here is it will really help if you can speak Czech, or if you have some Czech friends, or if you have English-speaking builders. But it's not the easiest. Financing options. This is what I've been discussing so far. Know where you are, know what is your down payment, know what is your monthly budget, what is your preferred fixation, because that can change the bank. By the way, the previous banks, I was giving the example that was 5 years fixation. 5 years fixation is usually the cheapest one. And bank selection, if you have any preference. For example, today I got a client and they said, Robin, but before we come to you, we will check with our bank first. Their bank was Raiffeisen Bank, and I was very happy about it, because Raiffeisen Bank isn't the cheapest on any matter. They are not the most competitive ones, so sometimes clients are very loyal and they say, yeah, I want to go to Raiffeisen Bank. Well, be my guest, of course, you can. But I will tell you that there are cheaper options, and I will help you with everything. So bank selection, if you have any preference, but usually it is expected that you go to a new bank and you will open a new bank account. You don't need to switch all your banking transactions to the new one, but you can. Property hunting, this is the most exciting part and usually takes the longest. I had clients who approached me when they already found a property, but very often how I work with expats is that we have this initial meeting, which is typically for 1 hour. I give them a brief crash course, something like this, but more individualized about real estate. I tell them what to do, where to look, what are the expectations, how hard it is going to be, and then you go to the market and look for the desired property. And clients very often disappear for 1 to 36 months. I had clients with whom I've been for many, many years, and they still didn't buy the property because they're very strict on what they want. There's nothing wrong with that, but you must understand that you should know what you want in the first place. If you keep changing your requirements, it will be quite hard. Set watchdogs. If you register yourself on seznam.cz, you can get notifications. Watch the market and negotiate the price. About that, Danielle will speak very shortly, how you can do the best for you. Closing the deal. At this point, you should always involve a lawyer. If you're wondering what happens if you don't involve a lawyer, well, you will not read it in one of the links, but one of the links is a real case scenario which happened to our client a year ago. It's a horror story. It is basically the worst thing that can happen when you buy real estate. It is on the second page. Feel free to read it up later, and that's why you need a lawyer. From the beginning, you order the property valuation. We do it with the bank. Signing a reservation contract. At this point, you should already know how much the bank is fine with the valuation. We get the mortgage fully approved, and in 1 day, we sign all the contracts. We help you with the process. We go there with you to the signing with the lawyers, because everything is typically in Czech, and we coordinate the whole meeting for you. And finalizing, then you pay the purchase price first, you pay your funds, then the bank pays the rest, change the ownership, hand over. Typically you get the property about 1 month when you sign the purchase contract. If you come to me tomorrow saying, Robin, I found the property, when do I get the keys? The answer is typically 2 months. 2 to 3 months is more realistic. And celebrate, of course. Handover, at some points, sometimes you can agree on early handover. If nobody is living in the property, you just ask the landlord, can we get the keys a little bit later, a little bit earlier? If they have nothing against it, why not? And my last slide is about types of properties. When it comes to purchases, I would say this is pretty much correct, how it is when you buy a real estate. When you buy a flat, it can be panel, it can be brick. These are the basic two differences. There is a lot of prejudice, misunderstandings about panel buildings. Nothing wrong with them necessarily. The biggest plus these days of panel buildings, beside the cost, is their energy efficiency. Very often people keep forgetting that in the Prague, nice Vinohrady kind of buildings, it's not very energy efficient. The windows, I don't know if you live in those properties, but in the winter it's quite cold. Oh, by the way, I got the gas. When a year ago, I was paying 2,000 deposits for gas, and I get it increased to 5,000 to 7,000. And that wasn't funny, that was a typical brick one. So it comes with downsides. But generally, buying a flat is the easiest thing you can do. You can do a property inspection from the structural point of view, but don't always find much things. Then the next step would be buying a family house. Then you should really ideally invest into a proper or understanding inspection of the property, because roof, foundations, static. I would recommend a company called Vnitroblock. They do a quite thorough search. They're not the cheapest, but they do deliver the work. They're also in English. They do the summaries. Vnitroblock. And if you say you're from Robin, I don't get any commission, but they like me a bit more. Development projects. The main difference is that you sign the paperwork now, and then you wait for the building to be delivered in a couple of months or years. Sometimes the developer asks for gradual payments, meaning you pay your first 10% now, and then you pay, 20% when they build the hard building, and then another 30% when they finish the walls inside, and another part later on. This is normal, this is possible, a little bit harder than buying a flat, but definitely possible. Renovation, at this point the bank would want to know what will you spend the money on. They want to see the budget, but they will not going to check the bills. They're not going to get from you, how did you spend these 10,000 crowns? No, they're going to go to the property before and after, just to make sure you spend the money on the renovation and not on holiday. Cottage, buying a cottage is like buying a family house, but usually there are more legal restrictions. Legal restrictions, I mean, if you buy the cottage, very often you go to the property through somebody else's land. The family has been going there through the uncle's property for years, but nobody really cared about putting a contract that you go through their land. It's fine, but not for the bank, because the bank wants to make sure there is legal access to the property. This is quite often a problem when you buy a cottage. Cooperative ownership, I already explained, it's a little bit more. There should be a whole other seminar for buying a cooperative flat, so I'll skip this one. It's a little bit more difficult, especially in Prague, due to the price. And the most difficult is buying a land and building a house. Well, but it comes with the biggest achievements. I mean, with the biggest added value, because you get your own house. And if you're wondering why the development, the new built family houses are so expensive in Prague, well, it's a bit of a hassle. If you know what you're doing, if you're a developer and you're building family houses one by one, not that bad. But if you want to do it on your own in another country, I'm not discouraging you from it, just saying it's going to be a bit more difficult. Yes?
Where would you put buying land and building a prefab house? Would you consider it the same?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more easier, but still probably like equally difficult to cooperative housing. But it's possible. Don't get me wrong. We did that, but it is just not the easiest. I'm more happy to explain how it works. And the prefab house, I'm going to ask: is it a form of, let's say, container housing, or is it really, for example, a company called Kanaba is the one. So from Kanaba, it's completely fine. It's one of the easiest thing to buy a land and build a house. I think is from companies like Kanaba. And as a summary, I have 4 things to say. You should shop around for the cheapest mortgage offer. You can, of course, go to your home bank, but the very big probability is that you would either not fit with the residency criteria, or it wouldn't be the cheapest bank. Or there might be some other thing, which I might explain, might not be the best thing. Of course, you do whatever is the best for you. I'm never going to tell you what you should do. I'm giving you options and let you decide. Second thing, negotiate on the price and do not rush into the purchase. More coming later. Always involve a lawyer. If you're thinking, but the real estate agency, they have a lawyer in the transaction. Why should I pay extra X thousands of crowns? Answer is in the article. And do not hesitate to get in touch for more information, because within this 50 minutes, I am not able to cover everything. This was a big crash course. I hope I didn't run it too fast. I had to. I couldn't do much faster. Sometimes I talk too much. Sometimes I go a little bit off the subject. And that was basically everything.
So, hello all. I am happy that it's full here. Thank you very much. You come. My name is Dan Kotula. I am in charge for the real estate part of today's presentation. First, I would like to mention that the presentation, there will be just little of theory. Most of the presentation will be based on the experiences and the stories from my life and from my practice of real estate agent in Prague. What do you mean about the real estate agents in Prague? Have you met some nice, or are you angry to some of them? I'm sure that the first one. The real estate guys are the best guys in Prague. If you have a problem with somebody, please let me know and I will talk to them. Okay? So what we will talk about. So here are several questions I meet very, very often if I talk with the clients. The question is about the Prague real estate market. Maybe you mentioned somewhere that in Prague there is a huge bubble. So we will talk about it. So then we will talk about who is buying properties in Prague. They are so expensive. Who has so much money that can buy properties in Prague? So we will show the people and you will understand why the properties are so expensive. Third question is better to live in the rental or in own? Fourth question, makes some sense to buy property in Prague for investment? Another question is how I can find the flat to buy, how I can effectively search properties. Another topic is how I will find out what's the real price of the property, because the offer is 10 millions, but what's the real price? It's 8, 9, or 10. And the last topic is how to negotiate the price. It's very, very, very important topic. So first I will make my short introduction. Here that's me with my colleagues from the School of University of Economics in Prague, where I have a master degree. I was about 8 years in Remax. Maybe you know this real estate brand. This is from the newspapers in the lesser town. I lived most of my life in the lesser town in the center of Prague. And this is from the newspapers of the lesser town. This is a thumbnail of one of the video. I publish video on YouTube. The videos are about living in Prague, about interesting places in Prague, how to enjoy life in Prague. I have already, or we have, because it's making by the team, we have already 14,000 subscribers. You are invited to subscribe also. Here is a barcode. I don't know if it works or not. So I put it first time in the presentation. But the name of the channel is Žít Prahu, and it's on the YouTube. And this is my family, my wife, my daughter, and my son. Now we live past 3 years in Letná, by the way, in rental, not in own. Only properties we have for investments. Maybe you will ask, now why we have them, why we don't live like real estate agents, why we don't live in our own flat. Then I will tell it later. Okay? So let's go on the first topic. Maybe before the first topic, I would like to ask you, what are the biggest barriers you could not buy flat until now in Prague? Tell me, you are worried about getting financing, or you are worried that the prices are too high, or what are the barriers? Or agents don't speak English? So knowledge where to get something. So you. Okay. Thank you. What? Anything else? The price. Okay. So you think it's the price too high? Too high. Okay. And what localities you would like to buy? Within the Prague, and for example, Vinohrady, Holešovice, or what? Prague 7. Okay, so it's here in Letna. We live also in Letna. It's a very, very expensive market. Yes. Another barriers? So if I understand, the biggest barrier is the price, that it's too expensive. And also it's difficult to find something what's suitable, or if I will describe it, it's okay. So let's go on the bubble on the Prague market. Maybe you saw in the newspapers that the Prague market is the hottest market in the world, or maybe between 3 hottest markets in the world. And according to the Czech National Bank, should be the prices in Prague at least 20% lower. My point of view you will know later. Very important is that all these surveys are related to the medium income of Prague residents. Could you please tell me, or have you tip what's medium income of the of the Prague resident? Some number. 42. Yes. 40? 45, yes. It's something about 42, 45, something like that. What I think is that such people cannot buy at this time any property. If you have a medium income, you cannot buy anything in Prague currently. The problem is that the people who are buying the properties in Prague have not medium incomes. And it's a lot of people in Prague who have not medium incomes. I'm not sure, I don't know your wages, but I'm sure that most of you will have probably double of medium income, or much more than medium income. Maybe some of you will have triple of medium income. These people have money to buy properties, and maybe they are here also. That's the reason. But the people with medium income in Prague, they have no chance. But the surveys were related with to the medium income. My point of view is, if somebody will say, in Prague there is a bubble, I will ask him, where in Prague? It's in Vinohrady, or it's on the edge of the Prague, in the prefab housing? In which part of the Prague is the bubble? Because properties are about localities. That's very important. If in some locality won't buy people with high income, the prices in this locality will following the income of the people who would like to buy the flat there. So the prices are so high in Prague because here is sufficient people who have sufficient money to buy for such prices. Nothing more. So, and I will explain it later, more in deep. Who is buying properties in Prague? So first, Prague residents, the Czech people. Prague is the capital. Here is so many entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs, and they have every year surplus 1, 2, 3 millions they can invest. And the Czech people, they know investment just in the properties. They don't know shares or other options. They are really focused on the properties. Another part are the people with well-paid employment. If you will be IT guy in Karlín, it will be usual that you will get 100,000 wage every month. And if it's couple, the couple has 200 together, and they can buy the properties for so high prices. And third part are normal people. I say normal people with normal income, but they who sold another property, mostly heritage after grandma or something like that. They have some capital to buy property. Second group of the people are people from the regions, smaller cities in the Czech Republic. If you are entrepreneur in České Budějovice or in Plzeň or in another city, you must own flat in Prague from the prestige. You must have it flat in Prague. If your son is going to the university, he cannot live on the college. He must live.
I'm sorry.
No problem. He must live in own flat, and mother will say, "Father, please buy the flat in Prague for my son," and he will pay it. They have own money. They don't need mortgage. They have it on the account. So also in the regions there are well-paid employees or the people who are well-paid, like doctors, lawyers, etc. And all want to have property in Prague. And second part are the foreigners who invest in Prague also from the prestige because it's nice city and want to have here something also. And that are your competitors on the market. And these competitors, because of these competitors, are the prices so high. And until these people want to buy properties in Prague, the prices will not fall. All these groups have own money. They don't need cash. They don't need mortgage. So the prices are not so high for them. But what's very important is that such people won't buy properties just in the great localities, like Vinohrady, Prague 7, Davice, etc. Then they don't want buy panel flat. So now back to the bubble. So now I have a question. Won't rich people live in Vinohrady? Yes? Yes, for example, Vinohrady. Yes. Are properties in Vinohrady too expensive related to income of rich people? Not to medium income, to income of rich people. Are expensive? No. I think they are cheap to income of rich people. Will be in Vinohrady some huge development in the future, or is the offer of flats very limited? It's very limited, yes. So, is there some bubble in Vinohrady? Sorry? How how you use the property? How do you think it?
Whether it's for investment or
Okay. Okay. So let's talk it about it later. I talk now about the situation that you have money on the account, a lot of money, and you want to buy property in Vinohrady. And it doesn't matter if you will get from rental 10, 15, 20,000 or 50,000. You want own flat in Vinohrady. So it's too expensive this flat for you in Vinohrady or not?
Buy, no. So rent depends on the question. If they don't rent it out, then it's going to be expensive. If they just have an investment in it.
Yes. Exactly. They just buy it because they won't own it. They don't see the return. They don't need yield. They buy it, for example, from Prestige or because they won't live there. Okay, but the similar question we can use with other localities. For example, do you know locality of Černý Most? Yes. So, let's use the same question. Won't live rich people in Černý Most? No. No. Never. Also, they will not buy it also if it's free. So, but let's ask it, are the properties too expensive in Černý Most related to medium income? Yes. So, is bubble in Černý Most? Yes, exactly. So that's why when Robin talked about the market price decrease, the prices decrease in Černý Most, for example, 20%, but in Vinohrady, 0.
Is there some market statistic how many sales of flats were with or without the mortgage according to different areas?
No. No, there is just total for all Prague, but not according the areas. But I can tell you from my daily life that if we advertise something in Vinohrady, most of the interested person will have cash. If we will advertise something in Černý Most, most of the buyers will need mortgage.
where we can find information about which region of Prague is prestige and which one is not.
Okay, we can meet and talk about it. There is no list about it, I think. Maybe you know, somebody knows the article about it. I don't know. I know it because I live all my life in Prague and I do real estate in Prague. But
For an expat that just moved to Prague from a couple months, he just doesn't have this information available.
yes, so what I can do, I can send list of the localities where I don't think there is not bubble. Okay. Okay, so now rental or own. So it's my topic because I decided to live in the rental, not in own. If you compare monthly rental to the purchase price, rental will be always between 2% to 3.5% of the purchase price. So depend on the locality. In the prestige locality, it will be about 2%. In the in Černý Most, it will be 3.5%. So it's not too, the yield is very low in Prague, very low. So from this very basic financial point of view, because it's a very basic financial point of view, has no sense to buy property in Prague. You can invest your own money other way, for example, shares or anything else. But it's a very, very basic financial point of view. But we know that what's the best than to live in own. There is another value. It's better to live in own than to be in a rental. For sure, it's not just about the money. But I can show you that I made a mistake, that I have not yet bought property for my family. You can look also another way on it, and you will see now why also investment in your own flat has some sense. So, for example, if you buy something for 10 million crowns, you will take from Robin 80% mortgage. Your own money will be 2 millions. And what's most important is that in the future, the price will increase because of inflation, because of wages increase. We can be sure that in the long-term view, the prices will be always higher and higher and higher. Not the value, but the prices. So, if in next 5 years will increase the property price to 12 million crowns, what's your yield from the 2 millions you have owned? So how much it is in the 5 years? Here is a small notice. It's 100% in 5 years, so 20% per year. So, and what other investment will give you 20% a year? Not many. So the investment in the property is just about the leverage. It has no sense to buy it for cash. The cash can be invested other way, better way. But if you will take a mortgage from Robin, and I hope tomorrow will contact them all here and take a mortgage as soon as possible. So just combination of a leverage combined with right locality, because you must always buy it in the locality where the price will increase in the future. And long-term view, because we don't know what will happen next year. We can just say that in the long-term view, for example, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the price will be higher in the long-term view. So don't be afraid of current prices. It's okay. If you have long-term view, just maybe 20% of your own money, and you will buy it in the right Prague locality, it's a great investment. So, and that's, now I will tell you why we live in the rental. So, the reason is that when I started in real estate, it's 13 years ago, so I was very poor. I had no savings. Family with 2 children and no savings. We lived in my mother's flat. And it's very hard to work in the real estate on the beginning because you have no clients, nothing, only cost with marketing and etc. So the first money you will get in, for example, half year after working in the real estate, you get the first money. And I missed, when we talked about it with my wife, I said, we have not money, we only think what we can do is just make smaller investments in the properties. For example, in the future to buy some small flat, but we cannot spend money for our own living because it's just consumption, it's not investment. So she was not happy, but accepted it. So after some time, I already had some money, and we bought just the properties for investment. Now I see that I could buy something for myself on this beginning. It's 3 years ago we decided that we will go from my mother's flat to our flat, but started COVID, and I was afraid what will be my income during the COVID, and we said, so let's go to the rental, and we will see. The prices will go for sure down in COVID. It was the biggest mistake, Yes. So let be now in the rental, and we will buy something in the future. So that's why we don't have until now any flat for ourselves. We bought several flats for rental or like speculation, but not for ourselves. So let's go to the practice, how to search properties. So there are 2 ways how to effectively search properties. So it's very, very hard phase of buying property is to find something what to buy. So first way is looking for hot news, the great properties for a great price. This has just only disadvantage. If you call on the advertisement, you are in the row of another 50 people, and you have a little chance to buy it. Most probably will buy the first one or the Czech, because with the Expat it's very complicated to deal for the Czech real estate agents. So, but it's an option, but you must be very quick. You can be quick if you set up watchdog. Here is a list of the watchdogs. You will get just after the property is advertised, you will get it in the mail. And when you see the advertisement, call in 10 minutes, because after 30 minutes can be late. Can be somebody else already can have scheduled viewing and will buy it somebody else. So you must be as fast as possible. That's first option. Second option is...
This has not changed in the last, with the switch to buyer's market? I thought this was more for
Okay.
2 years ago.
Yes. Robin talked about the market. I can agree that market changed, and it was very bad on the Czech market on the end of the last year. They were just few interested persons. Spring and summer this year, if I will say sellers and buyers, it's equal. We sell already relatively fast, for example, in 1 or 2 months. Now it's switching back to the seller's market. For example, today my colleague has 12 viewings on one property, and there will be most probably auction. And it's for price. It was not possible half year ago to sell the property. but now we have we start advertising at 1 p.m. and at 6 p.m. we took it off all the servers because we had already 12 people who would like to see it. So the market is changing now. It's going back to the seller's market. I think now is the last time to have some offer because number of the offers is also increasing. On the beginning of the year, on S-Reality was about 6,000 offers of flats in Prague. Now it's just 5,000, and every week it's lower, and lower. So I expect that next year it will be completely seller's market.
Is this specifically flats in Prague, or is that a trend that's also, houses in like citizenship Prague?
Okay, we are specialized for flats in Prague, so I cannot talk about the houses around the Prague. So, okay. So, let's go to a second way how to search properties. I think this second way you can have more success because there is not needed the speed and there is not so many competitors. So you are going and searching expired offers, the offers on the market which are already maybe 3, 4, 5 months. They are on the market because of one reason: they are overpriced. That's only the reason why they are on the market in most cases. So here is needed to be in touch long time with the real estate agent or with the seller because it will come the time when the seller is able to provide a discount to decrease the price. It's not maybe now, but it can be next month or after 3 months from now. But if you will be in the long-term touch, you will have an option to buy it for the lower price, for the real price. Here is very needed to have some negotiation skills, and I will talk about it in the next slide. How to negotiate. So, first very important rule, don't forget it please. Negotiate just if the offer is overpriced. If it's fairly priced, don't negotiate. If it's fairly priced, take it and say, yes, I don't want it, I don't want any discount. Because if you won't negotiate on the property which is fairly priced, the seller or the real estate agent will sell it to somebody else, and you will lose this option. Second rule. This is also very important, that sometimes the people are on the viewings angry, or they are not pleasant. They are tired, angry, they are not smiling, but the people, agents and the sellers, won't deal just with the pleasant people with whom you would like to make huge business, which is selling house. It's huge business. You would like to deal just with the pleasant people. So I don't know what you are solving in. Doesn't matter what happened in the work. Doesn't matter what happened in your partnership. Before the viewing, make a short meditation and be pleasant as possible is. Talk, smile, ask. They must have from you great feeling, and they must feel, I would like to sell this nice person. Please take it. Okay? Third rule is, don't talk about the property in bed. Some people will come in the property and will say, that's horrible kitchen. The view is terrible. And the condition, how you can live in such terrible place. And they say such comments just because of one reason. They won't get a discount. So they comment all the viewing what's bad in the property. But think, if you are agent or seller, what do you think about somebody who is just negative? Do you want to make a deal with somebody who is negative about the property? The seller will sell it just if you will be negative. Maybe if you will be the last person in the world, it will sell it, but always will prefer another person. And also, they will be afraid of the process. If you will be negative, they will ask how it will look like process of selling with this negative person. So they will say, let's find somebody else. Fourth rule is that you must find another benefits that you can offer to the seller. It's not about the price just. The another benefits, it's very often can be, for example, that then the seller can be in the property another 1-2 months after sale, because he must sometime to move his stuff to another home. And if you provide, okay, I will buy it for such price and you can live here another 2 months after sale. Think about it, how to make the sale easier for the seller. And then you can provide him benefits, why he should deal with you. Fifth rule, I mentioned it already, be in touch long time, really long time, because seller is on the beginning very proud on the flat and also is sure that he will get the price what he asks. But it's just on the beginning. Some seller needs 1 month, another 3 months, another 6 months. If you will be long time in the contact, in the touch, you will be in the touch also in the moment when will be ready to provide the discount to reasonable price. And on the end, when the seller is able to, would like to sell it now and has nobody, just you who is in touch already 6 months, give him financial offer, connect it with benefits. We talk about it already, but there should be some limited time. For example, my offer is valid 1 week. Let me know until end of the week if you are interested or not. Otherwise, he will speculate and wait another 1 month if somebody else will come. So if we talk about the negotiation and about the fair price, so ideal situation is that you are look for the property in some particular location. And you know that you are looking, for example, for 2KK, and you know that in this location of Vinohrady, 2KK cost about 8 million crowns. And you know that 8 million crowns is plus minus fair price. Okay? If you look in the area for some property, you will know it for some time, and you will have valuator in the head already. But if you would like to go more in deep and to make some analytics, you can use applications. There are several applications that can help you, and some of them are based on real transactions, so they are real prices from the purchase contracts, and another one are based on the offers, on the public data. For you, is better to use the application which are based on real transactions, on real purchase prices, and it's application cenovamapa.cz or cenovamapa.org. The other applications which are maybe better in the marketing, but they don't provide sophisticated information about the real transactions. They provide mostly or make analysis mostly about the offer prices. And there is another rule also, and that you have to take into account the conditions of the flat. Every flat is different. So some is in ground floor, another is in the fourth floor with elevator, another is in the fourth floor without elevator, etc. There are many particular conditions. Here is a barcode. I shoot a video about valuation. You will find there more information how to evaluate property, and also in the description of the video there is a link for the article where all the conditions of the flat you should take into account if you evaluate the flat. And that's all. Okay, do you have any questions?
Besides the time they can spend more on their property, what else we can offer?
Okay, so the question is, what can be all the benefits we can offer to the seller? So one was that he can stay 1-2 months after sale in the property. Another can be that, for example, imagine that the property is full of old furniture, and you will say, all the furniture, let's keep it here, I will move it myself. You don't need to move it yourself out. And he will save time or money with moving company. There can be also, for example, maybe need some money in front. For example, you buy property for 5 million, but they need for some deposit 300,000 crowns. You can check for sure with the lawyer if it's possible and how to do it. But you can provide, yes, okay, I will give you 300,000 crowns 1 month earlier than the rest of the money after the ownership is transferred. So most important is to talk with the owner or talk to the agent and to have a true interest in the seller and understand the needs of the seller. And then you will get the idea how you could help.
Excuse me for jumping in. I just wanted to add one more information which might be beneficial for you when you negotiate, is mentioning that you have pre-approved mortgage. Because speed is also, I guess, I don't know, Danielle, sometimes the agents want to know, all right, so are you in the beginning of the mortgage process? They might want to offer their mortgage services, but it is very, I think, important to say, I did check my finances with a mortgage advisor, we're ready to go, we're just waiting for the property. Even better, you can say, we already have the application in the bank, we're just waiting for the valuation. So that can give maybe a little bit more speed. Thank you.
Okay, another question? So maybe I will give you the microphone.
Thank you. Is it possible to negotiate the price for development projects or just for secondary market?
So now already it's possible to negotiate prices on the development. Depend on the developer, but most of the developers are able to provide you discount now. And if we talked about the overpriced about the prices, and here is some issue that some of the prices are overpriced. Issue is that the developers have mostly overpriced offer, and it's because the development is not in the great localities, in some B localities which are not so nice like Vinohrady, etc. And they sell it really for high price, and I'm not sure if it's a good to buy. If maybe 10-20% discount could be the fair price, but not that you will get a kitchen for free.
Thank you. My question is about the, let's say, extra costs. So if you buy the property, of course, let's say it costs 10 million, the house. So what else is there, like the taxes or the real estate services, who price those, the lawyers, like what kind of percentage of the total cost is like this extra?
Great, thank you. So in the Czech Republic, we are cost-free country. Here is no tax for the buyers. They have just one per year property tax, which is very low. For example, for big apartment, 100 meters, it can be, for example, 2,000 per year what you will pay for such apartment. So 80 euro, it's nothing. So if you buy a property in Prague, you will not pay most probably any commission, because the commission is paid by the seller. Also the lawyer, some basic lawyer is also paid by the agency, but you can hire your own lawyer, and it will cost, for example, 20,000 to check all the documents, so not much. And maybe there will be some fees related to the mortgage.
Thank you very much. Again, let me jump in just with following up. Definitely what Daniel said is 100% correct. There used to be 4% transfer tax, which was removed, I think, about 3 years ago with COVID. Now not coming anytime back. And by the way, it's one of the articles in the links. If you would check through the QR codes, one of the articles is called Costs Associated with Buying the Property with Real Life Example. So you can read there pretty much a real story of our clients who agreed to share their story, including the numbers. The story is, I think, 4 years old, so you should add on a little bit more on energy costs. But besides of that, it's pretty much accurate. Thank you.
Another question? No more questions? Okay. So let's finish. It's okay. One more question. Okay. Okay, the last one.
I would like to ask about the technical inspection of the property. In which cases it makes sense? Does it make sense for a development project again, or it makes more sense for old used houses, or like panel houses, or the brick houses in Vinohrady, which are really old? So in which cases you recommend to do the technical inspection of the property?
Okay, so technical inspections. We like real estate agents, we don't like technical inspections. From 2 reasons. First reason is that it's slower the decision to buy, because it takes some time until somebody will come to the property and check it and make some report. It takes, for example, 2-3 weeks. Second reason is that always will find something. So so in my point of view, it really depends what type of the people you are. I am able to buy something also in case I don't see it, because I have not real pain inside if I will do some mistake and if I overlook something. If you are the type of the person who must know everything, every single detail about the property, you must do it by all the property. What's very important, and in my case, if I will buy some family house, I will let it check, but somebody is for sure, because family house it's a more complicated thing than the flat. But myself, I will not check it. I will see if it's under reconstruction or it's in good condition, or that I can see, and I'm satisfied. What?
But can you do something like a quick check?
Can you do something like a quick check? I mean, there are certain things that you don't really see when you don't know a lot about it, but to just check with somebody who has so much knowledge that looking at the details already says like, okay, this might be a problem there, you might get a problem, or this is fine?
Yes, it can be. It's a middle way, but I have just issue it. If you will make a quick check, later you will find something what was overlooked, and you will be not satisfied with the quick check. So, but if you are okay, so the most visible things should be visible with quick check, with no report and no waiting for some inspection. Okay. So.
More of a crystal ball question. Do you foresee any effect in the next year or two for those people whose fixation is ending this year or next year, so they'll be forced into a higher rate mortgage? Do you foresee any of them selling lower out of necessity?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. It's like that we meet these people, but it's the case that the people have also the interest rate is not only issue the people are solving. They have another issue also. For example, they lost work, or they are in divorce, or they drank too much beer, or something else. So always, if people won't sell property due to some higher interest rate or due to mortgage, it's always connected also with some personal issue. If the couple of the people are personally okay with everything, they will pay also the higher mortgage. They won't keep the property and will do everything to keep it. Also, if it will be hard, they will pay it. So, if sale, it's always connected with some personal crisis.
Thank you. My question was actually about the refinancing. So you mentioned the new proposal for the 2% penalty, and I was just wondering, is it from the whole loan or is it for the fixation period part of the mortgage?
Thank you. The question was whether the 2% is calculated from the remaining mortgage balance or fixation period. Good. Very good, because you're right that the bank cannot charge anything else more, but what would be their interest due by end of the fixation. So if you have just, let's say, 1 month left until the end of fixation, next year the bank will most likely not charge you 2%. But they cannot charge you more than one of these two. So they cannot charge you more than the lower one. But usually we're speaking of the cases where you've selected fixation of 5 years and 2 years down the line you select refinancing, therefore 3 years more to go, and usually there is much more than 2% of interest to be paid. So the 2% is the cap, but also no more than what the real costs would be. Now the trouble is, how do you calculate the real costs? It is due to be the interest. It'll be more precise in the new update of the law. It's not approved yet. It has been. They started to talk about it a year ago. It's now sitting in a parliament, I think, or Senate. I'm sorry, and it's still not approved. It is expected it will pass though, but it will pass though from next year January. But we're still not sure. They might do a big turnaround and then nothing. Then this is a big conspiracy theory that the banks did it just as a bluff so that they can trick people to shorter fixation, therefore higher interest for them. Nobody will ever find out. But I have one question for you, Daniel. Because we've been talking and you shared so much experience, and thank you very much. I think that deserves an applause. Thank you, because I think the most valuable is the information from the field, and you have 13 years of experience behind you. This is really something which people can benefit from. Now, you talked a lot about sales, but if clients maybe want to buy property, can you also help with that? Is this part of your service, or?
It's not yet the official part of our service, but in the future I would like to provide it. So usually we buy with the clients, for example, 4 or 5 properties a year. In the later time, I would like to provide it more often, like a basic service. But it's not. You will not find it yet on our website. It will be maybe in 2-3 months later.
Thank you very much. And with this, I think any more questions? Otherwise, I would like to encourage you we will send you a follow-up form after this. If you fill it out, then you will get a link where you can download the presentation, any other information we've shared with you. If you have any feedback, if you would like any more questions to ask, now is the time. If you want to stay later, I will be here for quite some time until they kick us out. But I hope it was understandable. It wasn't too much for you. We will keep repeating those seminars. I will be very happy to have Daniel join us again. The next seminar, by the way, we're planning will be in about 2 months. We're planning it to be more law-oriented. It will be with Martina Kačerová. I don't know if you know the lady. She's a quite well-known real estate lawyer in Prague. And we will be having, again, buying a real property more oriented towards the legal. So that has been everything from us today. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been greatly appreciated.